My name is Linda, and I have a son who is a police officer. It's frightening to have a son in the police force, especially today in this environment with all the civil unrest and, the anti-police sentiment that seems to be all over the nation. And, with the targeting of police officers, police work is dangerous enough without having people deciding they should just shoot officers for whatever reason.
I think I can, and speaking for most of the dispatchers, I can say that we have a sense of guardianship or protectiveness for those officers, because the ultimate goal of our jobs is to make sure they go home alive, well, to their families. And we're going to do everything we can within our power to make sure that they go home.
What are some of the things that you like to do with your mom?
I like to go swimming sometimes, and
I like to play around with her and talk with her.
Yeah? Just like a regular person?
yeah.
She's sort of like a regular person, but she protects people.
And she's special.
I feel I'm much more concerned about them being out there in today's attitude. I think there's much less respect for officers. There's more people wanting to challenge their authority. And I think it's a much more dangerous situation now than it had been 5, 10 years ago.
It's always a concern for, a parent. When I found out a couple things that happened, your heart always sinks, but we just keep trusting, in the Lord, and that, He'll protect them. So
when I first started, I was told, think about all those calls that officers go out on. That's your brother going out on there. Think of everyone, because sometimes I'd hesitate toning up or getting a second unit started, and they're like, think of all of them like that. What would happen if? So there's always the what ifs, so make sure I got a backup unit. With him, though, I learned a whole new respect for the police department once I started working here, because forever it was, oh, he's a cop. No idea what they do. No one knows what we do.
There are dangers with everything. Anywhere you go, there's going to be dangers. You could be walking down the street one day and someone could pull out a gun and shoot you. You don't have a guarantee in life, and there's never a guarantee with whatever you choose to do with your life. So why not take the risk and go out and try and help someone instead of being afraid your entire life?
I was a dispatcher in Como when we met, so I was pretty familiar with the job details and requirements of a police officer. So I don't know how I would have felt had I not been in that profession. It's different now that we're married and I don't work in Como anymore and we have children. It's a lot scarier to think of it from this aspect. It's a different reality to know that there are people out there, even people with video cameras, that want to tape police officers, and they target police officers because they think they're the bad guy, and to us we know better. The police officers are the good guys, and those types of people want to cause harm to my husband, either physically or by hurting his position on the police department in some way that affects our family greatly.
I think that people see the bad in cops and they're like, oh, they're mean, they pull us over, they do this, but I see that they help us, they try to eliminate problems. If something happens, that's who you go to help, and if you need help, they're always there for you. So people see like the negative and the trouble in it, but I see like the help, that if someone needs you, you're gonna be there for them. You're gonna go and you're gonna rescue them. So I just feel like I see the positive in it instead of the negatives.
Police officer work can be different than other people's work because there's violence. You have to protect yourself. There's low amounts of security, and it's a really dangerous time to be out there. I don't think fights are cool, and my friends say that fights are cool because they beat up each other and all of that, and they don't know the real truth of it, which is fights are meant for saving people and having like if somebody's trying to kill somebody and a police officer walks into it and he dies, but he got the guy arrested, then that's really much honor, and it's basically really good. And I don't think that fights are awesome, because once my dad got in a fight and he got an injured hand and he had to stay at home for a bunch of weeks.
Working in Como, I saw a lot and I heard a lot, and I was there for the aftermath of Patrick Hardesty, and Chuck worked with Eric Height. We got that phone call and it was devastating, and to know that our friends and family are out there and dealing with this on a daily basis, it's a little scary.
We have 3 children, 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl. We didn't expect the girl to go into law enforcement, the daughter to go into law enforcement, policing. I prefer that term to law enforcement.
I feel bad for all of the families out there because they do sacrifice so much, and it's not appreciated like it used to be. I think we have a lot of dedicated officers out there that sacrifice so much for people that don't really understand the full depth of what they go through.
As a citizen, what the police officer does is an amazing thing. As a group of citizens, I don't think we recognize that. It's a very difficult profession, and when you have to parent, or husband or wife, alongside of that, it multiplies it. It's an exponential multiplication of difficulty.
I think you feel like a sense of responsibility when you're working a frequency, especially, once you've been here longer and, you start to, you recognize voices, and we may have never met, and we probably never will. I may just know a name, but you just become familiar with them, and when you're working, if something goes wrong or something happens, if they start chasing somebody, you feel a sense of urgency. You worry about them like it's your best friend or your family member, and everything it's kind of, I don't know if it's like that in the field, but it feels like everything's in slow motion. Everything's taking a long time before, other people get to them, things like that. So I don't know, we feel, we want to find out who they're going to go contact, what's going on there, because we want them to be taken care of. And it doesn't matter if it's someone that maybe we were not getting along with on the radio. Like, it doesn't matter what the situation is. When anything happens, you really do feel that, like, you care about them, you want them to be okay, you want them to go home.
It's funny, I'm actually kind of embarrassed to say this, but at the beginning when we first got married and the kids were little, I remember he was supposed to get home like at 10, and it's 11 and 12 and 1 o'clock, and I'm like, where is he? He hasn't called, if everything's okay. And I remember calling the dispatcher and saying, my husband is, and I'd give the badge number, and, oh yeah, he's still on duty. It's like, okay, I just want to know that he's okay. Now he's real good at keeping that communication, because it would scare me when he wouldn't come home. And, I'm wondering, like, is everything okay? And then, and he was involved in a shooting. And so all those things that I was always afraid of, it happened one day, and so I don't think it was weird for me to feel that way, but it's natural when you have someone that's doing that, I think.
Our garage door, I could hear that. We live in a 2-story house, and the garage door probably needs to be replaced because it's so loud. But when we hear that, the kids, no matter what they're doing, they will run to the garage to go greet their dad. If it's late at night and if he's working off duty or in a uniform, hearing that obnoxious Velcro rip, which seems to take forever, and it also is like the loudest thing in the middle of the night when you're trying to keep everybody quiet. But those are comforting sounds. The scary sounds are like if it's in the middle of the night and you know that, because at any given time, my brother-in-law's on like a second shift, like a swings. My sister can be on a swings or a mids. Even Chris and Jimmy, if they ended up getting deployed, when my son's at the door, staring out there, and when he says like, "Mom, there's a police car out front," there's like a couple of seconds where I'm just like, okay, why is there, I don't want a police car out in front of my house, unless it's my family coming over for lunch, but those kind of things scare me.
Mostly it's the kids that say hi to Daddy. They get very excited when they hear him come home and when they hear the garage door open, and they run to the door to greet him there. For me, it's always been the vest, and lots of other cops' wives can probably relate to that. Hearing the Velcro come apart after he gets to take his uniform off. And the vest always leaves a smell afterwards, so we know that smell. But those things it's always a great relief to know that he's home.
I hope people do see the more human side of everybody, because they really are. They're really caring people. There's officers out there that go well beyond what they need to do for people that they come in contact with out on calls, and that's really inspiring when they do.
Thank you all to all the officers out there and my mom, because they're really protective, and you protect a lot of people.
I would implore to the community that, it's not just you pay the tax dollars for his pay, but yeah, I'm essentially involuntarily giving you my husband, my brother, my sister, all of my extended family, and they would, they lay it all down for you. So, maybe be a little bit more patient and tolerant, a little bit more kind, maybe have a little bit more understanding that the person that you're dealing with is got a seat at my dinner table.
We grow up wanting heroes in our lives, those people that come in and, in the bad situations and deal with the bad things and help us out. And I think that there are some very fine men and women who serve our communities, and I appreciate each and every one of them.